the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, New Jersey, HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing, where tonight the remarkable George Foreman, in his 4th decade of professional prize fighting, takes on an opponent scarcely half his age, Shannon Briggs. Also featured tonight, 1996 Olympic gold medalist David Reed facing Dan Connolly in a junior middleweight bout scheduled for 6 rounds. Reed hopes to keep his unbeaten early professional career going. A gloomy day on the boardwalk here in Atlantic City, but a glitzy night inside the Trump Taj Mahal as a knowledgeable boxing crowd, liberally spiced with Foreman aficionados, packs into this arena. Plenty of empty seats, though, as we get ready for this edition of World Championship Boxing. Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley. We welcome you to tonight's HBO World Championship Boxing, featuring a bout which will either bolster or perhaps terminate George Foreman's hopes of getting one more moment in the spotlight, one more big money payday against the likes of Evander Holyfield or Lennox Lewis, or for you fans of circus fights, maybe even Mike Tyson. Working with me, as always, HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant. And Larry, let's put Foreman's quest in perspective within the general landscape of the heavyweight division as we look at our own consensus heavyweight rankings, a compilation of the rankings from 3 major boxing publications, seasoned with our own editorial input.
Evander Holyfield, the recognized champion. Lennox Lewis, who owns one of the belts, is the logical challenger. Negotiations ongoing for them to make a fight, but there are serious obstacles. The pre-opening odds on this fight, incidentally, we've just learned from Las Vegas, it's an even money proposition at this point. Next, we're going to go to some of the old guys, the golden oldies of boxing, still hanging on, still with a lot of name recognition, led by George Foreman. Tim Witherspoon, who it was just announced is going to fight Larry Donald 3 weeks from now in a Boxing After Dark show. Ray Mercer coming back from a neck operation early next year. Buster Douglas hoping to get a shot of some kind himself. And then we come to the young fighters. These are the youngsters who seem to have the most going for them to jump, catapult themselves into the top echelons of the heavyweight division, like Ibushi, David Tua, who made his comeback after an elbow operation earlier tonight. There are a handful of others in this category, including Shannon Briggs, who stands behind all of the rest of these fellas, really, in terms of his accomplishments.
In all likelihood, the winner of tonight's bout keeps his place in that list some way or another, and the loser, in all likelihood, tumbles out of that aggregation of heavyweights.
You're right, Jim.
All right, well, we'll be seeing George Foreman later on against Shannon Briggs, but we're going to start the evening off with a look at...
Please, because all you guys out there, you saw that I could hit with a left. So please don't try to work for the right, because I also could hit with the left, too.
Thank you very much, David. Okay, Jim and Roy.
All right, thank you very much, Larry Merchant. So 1 down, 1 to go as we finish the preliminary bout between David Reed and Dan Connolly. Still to come tonight, the heavyweight bout between George Foreman and Shannon Briggs, which is our main event. Of course, Foreman will be trying to retain his dwindling and perhaps irrational chance of trying to get a fight with an Evander Holyfield or a Lennox Lewis or a Mike Tyson. One more big payday, as we said at the top of the show, one more moment in the spotlight before the career comes to a close. Joining us now, as we get ready to bring you a lot of boxing news between fights, is the man who by all rights should be the next name on Evander Holyfield's opponent list, the other heavyweight title holder, Lennox Lewis, just a month and a half removed from his vicious destruction of Andrew Galata here in Atlantic City. Lennox, welcome aboard. Tell us what you can about any ongoing negotiations for the fight that the public wants to see between you and Evander Holyfield. What's happening?
Well, I've told my people to get the fight, do whatever they can to get the fight with Evander Holyfield. You know, I'm appealing to Evander because I control my people, and I tell them what I want to happen, and I'm sure he tells his people the same thing. So, you know, a fight of this magnitude, it can do so much for heavyweight boxing, because you could say the heavyweight scene right now has got a black eye, and for a fight between me and Evander Holyfield, I think the public wants to see it. I know the whole world wants to see it. I know I want it to happen. Basically, Evander Holyfield has to want it to happen as well.
But you held a news conference here in town today, And from what I gathered at that news conference, the news was not good. There is a ticking clock. You want to get back into the ring by May at the absolute latest. That requires that a bout be made within the next 2 or 3 weeks at the absolute latest. And right now, nothing much is happening, right?
No, I mean, you know, we're trying to get Don King to come to a meeting. Right now he's missed 3 meetings, and you know, what can you do? My agenda is just to go on. If Evander Holyfield doesn't want to fight me, I just go on. I've got different options. I've just got to get in the ring as soon as possible. Right now the time has gone by. About a month has gone by and nothing's really happened.
Well, Holyfield has publicly said that he wants to fight you, has never been quoted any differently than that. However, at the telecast of Holyfield-Moorer, the man who holds promotional rights for him, Don King, got into the ring and spoke almost exclusively about the possibility of another Holyfield-Tyson fight. Do you fear that King wants to keep you out of the picture?
He definitely wants to keep me out of the picture, but you know, whether he can is the question. I think if Evander Holyfield wants to fight, like he said he wants to fight, then he should tell Don King that he wants to fight to get the fight made.
What are your choices if, in fact, the nightmare occurs and you're not able to get a bout with Evander Holyfield?
Well, I just can continue. I've got other things I can do, other boxers I can go after. There's other opportunities out there for me. Just continue. I don't think he'll let this slip by. I think this fight's very important.
Despite everything you've accomplished in your career, Lennox, having won a heavyweight championship twice, only one loss, more than 30 wins, almost all of them by knockout. Your career has been an ongoing tidal wave of frustration because of your inability to get to the center of the picture. If Holyfield weren't to sign a contract to fight you this time around, would that be sort of the last straw in frustration?
No, not really. I realize that these things happen in boxing. You know, you get a lot of politics. You know, I say if 2 boxers want the fight will happen. I want the fight. I've instructed my people that I wanted to fight. You know, all he has to do is instruct his people that he wants to fight, and the fight's made.
Did you get the sense that your knockout over Galata earned you new respect among American boxing fans where, let's face it, you've had an uphill fight gaining respect?
Yeah, I think it was like a day and night thing where I went in there and basically made a statement, a public statement that, you know, I'm the best heavyweight on the planet. And the Andrew Galata fight came at the right time. He just was, he played to the scene and the role.
Well, Lennox, thanks very much for joining us. Incidentally, Lennox will join us during the bout between Shannon, Briggs, and George Foreman to do a little ringside commentary, so we'll look forward to seeing you over there at the ring.
All right, good.
All right, now let's take a look at some action from attention to the ongoing saga of George Foreman. Of course, as Foreman approaches his 49th birthday, the issue that rises above all competitive issues in his career is his health. Boxing is a dangerous sport. At this point, why, ask so many people around the sport, should George Foreman continue to fight? There is no other sport like boxing. It is the most overtly violent form of competition and has the tragic fate of countless boxers to show for it. Wilfred Benitez depends on his mother for daily care. Jerry Quarry is physically dysfunctional. Muhammad Ali struggles with Parkinson's disease, and the stories go on. For now, George Foreman has no diagnosed infirmities, but the worry in the boxing community is, after 80 pro fights and countless rounds of sparring, can George Foreman walk away unscathed?
Why would a man 48, 49 years old want to go in and get hit with a baseball bat? Because basically that's what's going on.
He's going to underestimate some younger fighter, and he's going to get hurt really bad.
People ask me all the time, George, are you concerned with memory loss? I said, no, I named all my boys George, 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 and George. I'm already prepared. Come here, George. You too, George. So I don't have to worry about the memory loss.
George can joke all he wants, but the fact is the longer he fights, the greater the risk of dementia pugilistica, the damaging cumulative long-term effect of boxing. Dr. Ira Kassan has performed extensive neurological research on over 200 boxers.
The statistics indicate that the majority of fighters who've had more than 80 professional fights will have chronic brain damage. Studies that I have done have shown that champion fighters have more risk of it because they don't get knocked down, they keep getting blows to the head, and they keep coming back for more.
Dr. Barry Jordan from the UCLA School of Medicine is another neurologist who has studied this subject. For now, he says, Foreman's fit to fight, but the future is iffy.
Well, as a boxer ages, they are at increased risk of brain injury from boxing. This is simply because they have a longer exposure to the sport of boxing. And also, when they age, their reflexes may slow down.
So how does this relate to George? Well, for one thing, his fights are lasting longer than ever. His last 7 bouts have averaged almost 11 rounds apiece. The 6 previous ones, only 4 rounds. Moreover, of the 25 punches he gets hit with in an average round, 75% of them are head blows.
Guys are hitting him a lot. Savarese hit him a lot. Vander Holyfield hit him a lot, and that was 6 years ago. I don't think we've seen the effects of that one yet. Alex Stewart hit him a lot. Axel Schultz hit him a lot.
Last April, Big George outlasted and defeated Lou Savarese, but ate a lot of leather while doing it.
It's almost impossible for George to keep up the punch. You know, he'll take 2 or 3 to land one. It's inevitable that he's going to get hit if you throw a combination.
Even as he closes in on age 50, George Foreman remains an athlete. And like most pro athletes, he dismisses the danger to focus on winning the prize.
I'll allow people to say anything they want to me, but if it's negative, I don't hear. If there's some studies about some negative effects of boxing, I don't believe them. I don't believe them. My thing is the positive.
Fighters are not that pessimistic. If I thought about the fact of, I hate to say it, it'd be so morbid, but going blind when I had the eye injury, I never would have faced Marvin Hagler. I never would have had a chance to come back and beat Durant again or face Tommy Hearns again. I would have lost all those wonderful experiences and moments. I know George does the same thing.
Foreman's personal physician, Dr. Aiden Rios, assured us George is healthy to fight now. But what about his future?
We don't have crystal ball. All we can say is that as of today, he's medically fit to exercise this sport, and that's all what we can say.
Typically, the chronic effects of boxing are delayed after a boxer retires. So they may have a period where they're asymptomatic, and then 10, 15, or 20 years down the line, develop neurological problems.
There are other concerns when it comes to Foreman. Some feel he may be giving false hope to retired boxers who may want to fight again. Others think he's taking up space that should be used to develop younger fighters. But the main worry is still for George's safety.
At almost 50 years old, he's courting disaster.
I don't think that he will know when to stop, and that's going to be another sad chapter in boxing.
George Foreman says he'll leave boxing when somebody finally knocks him out. He can only hope, as we all do, that that won't be too late. So what about it, Larry Merchant? Have we reached the stage at which George Foreman's ongoing sense of invulnerability should be of concern to his fans and supporters?
Sure it should, because if you play or wander in a forest full of monsters long enough, one of those monsters is going to get you even if you think you are invulnerable. But George has an interesting theory about the occupational hazards of this very dangerous game. He believes that if he exercises his brain, that somehow that will defend his brain from any potential damage. By that he means that he reads a lot, he's an insomniac, reads all night long, that he plays with puzzles, one of them being why if he owns hundreds of neckties, does he only wear 3 of them? He's even trained himself to do the alphabet backwards. Well, it's a theory. Maybe not the Big Bang theory, but a Big Bangers theory. And if you're as powerful as George is, maybe it works. The problem comes, Jim, because very, very few prize fighters, if any, are as powerful as George.
Well, and we wonder, of course, how much punching power he still has to punish the opponents who want to come at him and hurt him. You heard George say in the piece, if there are studies that show that boxing is damaging to the body, I don't believe them. Roy Jones Jr., I know that your attitude toward that subject is entirely different.
Yeah, my attitude is totally different because George has lived twice as long as I have. So George really isn't concerned about what's going to happen in the next few years. He's done about everything he wanted to do. He's come back to accomplish everything he wanted to accomplish, so why should he worry? If he stopped tomorrow, I mean, right now he knows about what he can do. Roy Jones, on the other hand, wants to live to see 50.
What about the observation that he is unnecessarily and unwarrantedly taking up space in the division that ought to belong to younger fighters with bigger futures?
But there again, I can understand why a person could think something like that because Why keep going around fighting and taking up their time and their money when we already know everything that you can do? You came back, you showed us that you could do everything that we didn't think you could do. So now let's pack it up, take it in while everything is still good. Let these young guys come out and prove themselves. It's almost like, why would Roy Jones try to go back and go to the Olympics again? He already went and did his duty. He served it the best that he could. Now let some more kids come up and enjoy themselves at the Olympics.
But of course, as long as the audience exists for George the way it has, then he will continue to have the option of pursuing his career. And let's go back to the same subject area one more time. The preceding piece focused on all the reasons why George Foreman maybe shouldn't be fighting. Here are the reasons why he believes he should. George Foreman will be 49 years old in January. Since his comeback began in 1987, he regained the World Heavyweight Championship 20 years after first winning it. And he's made over $100 million in boxing and endorsements. Why should he keep fighting?
I'm doing something I can do as long as I want to. I don't think I should look forward to retiring when I'm getting better at doing what I do.
From 1977 to 1987, Foreman didn't fight, not once. And that layoff may have been most significant in limiting the wear and tear on his body. Is he therefore really a 38-year-old fighter in a 48-year-old package?
I do believe that that period of 10 years when he didn't box probably helped protect his brain.
If I had continued my career from 1977 to now, I would have long gone, been finished in boxing. But the 10 years out really gave me a refreshing. It renewed me physically and mentally for the game.
Foreman's fights are consistently among the highest-rated programs on this network. He carefully chooses his opponents from a list provided by HBO. He has repeatedly said that if someone beats him badly, he'll retire. But so far, that hasn't happened. In his most recent fight, a 12-round decision over Lou Savarese in April, some experts thought George looked better overall than at any time since losing a spirited decision to Evander Holyfield 6 years before.
What he lacks in speed, he makes up in smart, experience. He'll know how to anticipate. He'll know which way you're going to go. And that jab, I mean, he's got a great jab.
And despite his immobility as a target, George has a knack for absorbing punishment. He's a considerably smarter, more confident fighter than the man who entered the ring 20 years ago.
George Foreman is a cute guy. He rolls with the punches. It's not like, it's like a head-on collision. It's very, a lot of pressure. But when you're rolling with the punches a little bit, a lot of the power is taken out of the punch. And George has, through the years of fighting, learned how to do that a little bit.
I think the 10-year layoff, it allowed George Foreman to learn about himself. I think he became a more relaxed fighter when he came back to the ring. I think he fought out of a lot of fear his first time around, which made him get very tired, lose belief in himself. I think now he believes in his ability to win any fight, any time.
Much of that belief is born of sheer self-discipline. He hasn't smoked tobacco or drunk alcohol in over 20 years. And while he may not look on the surface well-conditioned, his training regimen is fierce and unenviable. But aren't he and his doctor concerned about the possible effects of boxing on his brain?
We know what chronic brain damage is, of course, and we know that from the medical examination, there is absolutely no evidence of that in George. George doesn't have any, and I want to be very clear, there is absolutely no evidence of atrophy in his physical, radiological, or mental examinations.
I have no concerns. I have no concern. As a matter of fact, I told you, for some reason, if it's not positive, it just doesn't register with me. I don't have any feelings about anything that's not positive. Tell me something positive, I can understand. But all the negative research has nothing to do with me.
Whether he agrees with the research or not, the question still remains, will George walk away before it's too late?
He's a shrewd guy. He's very smart, very intelligent, and I think he'll know when it's time, when he's going to really put himself at risk.
When George becomes the stepping stone for younger fighters, then it's time for George to move, to get out. But right now, George is using younger fighters as his stepping stone.
He knows who he's fighting, and I don't think he's taking any risk at all.
George will know when.
One thing is clear. The decision on whether George Foreman should continue to fight will be made by George Foreman alone. He is at peace with himself, and he won't let anyone else dictate to him what to do with his life. So the boxing world can only hope he makes the right decision. And because, of course, we work with George on a regular basis, we wanted other opinions besides our own to be offered here. So we canvassed 50 people in the sport, media people, trainers, people close to the sport, and asked them a simple question: should George still be fighting or not? 29 yeses, 21 nos. Now let's get to the fight itself. Foreman against Shannon Briggs. Larry Merchant, George Foreman says that he is still the linear heavyweight champion of the world. In this complicated day and age in the heavyweight division, what, if anything, does that mean?
Well, I suspect it means that George can trace his great victory over Michael Moore clear back to Hercules.
Or Samson.
What he really is the champion of a parallel universe to the heavyweight division. George may not be able to beat the top class of heavyweights, but because of his popularity, because he attracts such large television audiences, he can handpick from a lesser class of heavyweights and have an entertaining fight out of it and make $5 million a pop, as he did when he fought Savarese last spring, and as he will tonight when he fights Briggs. Despite Briggs' lack of credentials on even this level of the game, we found out earlier tonight that this is an even money fight in Vegas, so perhaps we'll have another entertaining night at the fight.
And the blueprint for how to beat the modern George Foreman, the one in this stage of his career, was drawn up a few years ago by Tommy Morrison in his hide-and-seek unanimous decision effort over Foreman in Las Vegas. In 30 previous bouts, Roy Jones Jr., Shannon Briggs has never fought that kind of fight. Could he do it tonight?
Yes, he'll have to do it tonight if he wants to beat George Foreman. The one thing we know about Shannon Briggs is that he is a big guy. He's a big, strong-looking guy on the outside. He can punch. He's everything we want to see in a guy on the outside. However, on the inside, we find out that he may not be as big as we thought he was. However, he may come back tonight and prove to us something different. So he'll have every opportunity. And as far as George goes, I think George should do as George wants to do.
Tail of the tape for George Foreman against Shannon Briggs. Foreman told us that he didn't step on a scale during training this time because he wanted to eat everything he felt like eating. Result, he weighs 260, the most he's weighed in 11 bouts. 23-year difference in age. They are both 6 feet 4 inches tall, and Foreman gives up 2 inches in reach to Briggs, although usually it is George's telephone pole jab which dominates the space between the two fighters. Punch stat numbers, Larry.
Both fighters throw and land about the same number of punches, but obviously against a different class of competition. In the fights we have tracked on Briggs, he's thrown 70 or 80 punches in the first or second round, many fewer, maybe 35 or 40 as the fight goes on. Jab is the big punch. It's what George Foreman uses to win his fights these days. Briggs has a decent jab when he uses it.
Rules of the bout with the George Foreman of ringside judges, Harold Letterman.
The George Foreman Shannon Briggs fight is scheduled for 12 rounds. There is no standing 8 count. No 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
All right, Harold, and now let's get ready to bring both fighters into the ring. First to enter, Shannon Briggs. Next to him, camera left, Mark Roberts, the manager with whom he lives in Upper New Jersey. You can see that George Foreman was 32-0 when Shannon Briggs was born. He's 25.
Right now you have to say that he is simply a product of the hype of being a New York fighter who comes from the same Brooklyn neighborhood as Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe, because he hasn't beaten anyone of any substance. He was stopped in 3 rounds by Wilson, as you pointed out earlier, but he has a good story. He has a great body, and he has bad hair, which he picked up while he was playing chess in Washington Square Park in New York from all the hippies who hang out there.
And the record for Shannon Briggs, 29 wins. He was 25-0 when he lost to Darrell Wilson in that bout. He dominated the first 2 rounds, got cut in the 3rd round, and folded like an accordion. Those people who don't expect him to beat Foreman say that the problem is in his heart. Shannon Briggs was chosen by George Foreman from a list of opponents suggested by HBO. Let's give you a look at the other names on the list.
Well, not all of these are exactly tigers. And the odd thing about it is that George normally doesn't want to fight a fighter who has any athletic ability because he's afraid he'll move away from him. But he bypassed other fighters who are strong fighters to take Briggs, presumably because of that Wilson fight.
What do you think of that list, Roy?
I think it's a very impressive list myself, and he probably took the best fighter for George.
And now here comes George Foreman to the sound of Amazing Grace. George Foreman, 45-2 in the first career, then the 10-year layoff, 31-2 in his comeback career. The 4 losses to Muhammad Ali, Jimmy Young, Evander Holyfield, Tommy Morrison. No knockouts for Foreman since he knocked out Michael Moore to win the title for the second time, November of 1994. And let's go to Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, Azoff and Wald, Main Events Fight Night. Cedric Kushner Promotions with Henry Holmes Productions and your undisputed, undefeated King of Beers, Budweiser. This Bud's for you. Present 12 rounds of boxing for the Linear Heavyweight Championship of the World. Sanctioned by the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board, Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazard Sr., Chairman Jerry Gormley, Board members Gary Shaw and Stephen Katz, Deputy Commissioner John Greco, physicians at ringside, Dr. Kenneth Remsen, Dr. Stephen Oxler, Dr. Dominic Coletta Jr., and Dr. Louis Sabatini. Timekeeper at the bell, Roosevelt Gilbert. Counting for the knockdown seconds, alternate referee Tony Orlando. The 3 judges scoring this bout on a 10-point must system will be Kelvin Claxton, Lawrence Layton, and Steve Weisfeld. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Eddie Cotton. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, from Donald J. Trump's Taj Mahal Casino Resort of Atlantic City, New Jersey, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white trimmed with black, he weighs 227 pounds. His professional record, an excellent one, 29 victories, including 24 knockouts with only 1 defeat. Tonight, he plans on taking another step towards his goal to become the world champion. Ladies and gentlemen, from Brooklyn, New York, here is the challenger, Shannon. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing white trimmed with blue and weighing 260 pounds. This 1968 Olympic gold medalist has a professional record of 76 victories, including 68 by knockout, and he has 4 defeats. Now, he steps into the ring for the 81st time, prepared to defend the title he captured by victory in the ring and never lost by defeat in the ring. Tonight, we turn the page to another chapter in the ongoing career of a boxing legend. Ladies and gentlemen, from Marshall, Texas, presenting the 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman.
side. Okay. All right, chief seconds. Boxers. Where's your chief seconds, Shannon?
All right, boxers, you received your instructions in the dressing room. Obey my commands. Protect yourself at all times. Let's touch love. Have a good, clean fight. Let's touch him.
George talks more these days about missing his church work, missing his work with his kids program. He's not in the best shape we've seen him in recent years. Does he still have the old want-to and the can-do?
Fascinating stare down, Roy, as George stared silently at Briggs, and Briggs started laughing and talking to him in the middle of referee's instructions.
Yeah, and I guess that shows some confidence in Briggs.
Well, some of his supporters thought he might have been a little psyched out at the weigh-in where he refused to look at George. This was different. Shannon Briggs hoping for major redemption tonight. When he lost to Darrell Wilson a year and a half ago, his trainer Teddy Atlas left him. And when Briggs said that he was bothered by asthma in the bout, Atlas said he never said anything about it to me. He's had an awfully tough year. Shortly after that, his mother died, and then a very close friend was murdered. So he feels as though he's coming out of the shadows and perhaps into the spotlight tonight against Foreman. Briggs, who has been known to throw an average of 80 punches in the first round, is definitely not fighting at that overwrought pace in the first round here.
He's trying to use his jab and stay away from George because he knows that George is looking to land those big punches on him. So he can't throw as many punches because he can't stand as still as he normally stands.
Briggs smiling as he moves around the ring. His new trainer, Carlos Albuerne, said, if he uses the ring and stays away from the ropes, he wins the fight. If he goes to the ropes, he loses. It's as simple as that. We've lost our clock temporarily. A minute and 30 left in the first round. Foreman trying to maneuver Briggs into the corners, and as slow as he appears to be, George is excellent at using the ring space to his advantage.
Yes, he is. He cuts the ring off. He makes you back into a corner. Once he gets you close enough and uses the ropes to trap you, then he throws his big punches.
Saw Foreman nodding at Briggs. They're having something in the way of an ongoing conversation in there. And there comes the Foreman jab, which was so evident in his conquest of Savarese this past spring. And you hear the crowd responding as George lands. A little bit less than a minute left in the round.
And Briggs is landing a pretty good jab himself here early in the fight.
.30 seconds left in round number one. Both fighters trying to establish their jabs in this first round. Shannon Briggs giving you a preview of the footwork that he hopes can win the fight. But there he puts his back against the ropes, and that provides the kind of opportunity that his trainer says he cannot afford to give to Big George.
Good job, Phil. Good job.
All right, listen. Listen.
Where they going? Where they going?
What do you want? You said one, two. Listen to me. Listen to me. Yeah. When he go, you should pop back up, go, we hang out, you move for the other side and you hit it. Listen to me, all right? You win the first round. But you need to use your job. Don't run it. Work with him. Work. He go with this side, you go with the other. Go.
Foreman, as has been his custom in the comeback career, standing in the corner between rounds. Angelo Dundee offering a few small nuggets of wisdom. And as round 2 begins, we're joined at ringside by the world heavyweight co-champion, if you will, Lennox Lewis. And Lennox, what did you think of the first round?
I felt the first round went pretty good. They're both getting used to each other. Shannon can't put his back against the ropes, so George will catch him. I think George is just waiting to set up a big right hand for Shannon. But everything's going well so far.
Which fighter do you think might be able to establish his jab first?
Well, it looks like Foreman's trying to get his jab going. I think Shannon's trying to mix up his punches and use his speed. George definitely has the experience and is using it.
Would you consider fighting George Foreman as one of your options if the Holyfield deal goes south?
Well, he's definitely an option to me. Whether he wants to fight me as well, one depends.
It'll depend on the money, Lennox.
Definitely.
What about if Briggs wins the bout?
If Briggs wins the fight, well, I know my friends down at Susie Q's wants me to do that. Wants me to fight him.
Susie Q's is in New York?
No, it's in Toronto.
Aha. Little inside stuff for Lennox Lewis as round 2 reaches the midway point. Foreman working behind the jab.
I tell you what, if Briggs doesn't knock Foreman out here pretty soon or knock him down and do something to gain some momentum back on Foreman, he's going to be in for a long night. Because the longer this fight goes, the more George is going to get into this fight.
Well, and when we saw the Sabaris bout early in the spring, you saw how George was able to wear down Sabaris and ruin him in the late rounds because of his incredible stamina, his great relaxation in the ring. Isn't that really his biggest secret, Lennox, the relaxation?
Definitely. That's where the experience comes in. You know, it just keeps on the pressure, and at the right moment, he knows when to turn it on.
Missing with the left there, but coming back to stick the jab. And Shannon Briggs, I totally agree with you, Roy Jones. He's fighting George Foreman's fight right now.
Yeah, he's breathing harder than George is.
Which is a good time for me to point out that I spoke with a psychologist before the fight who has worked with Briggs, and he told me that Briggs' biggest worry is that he doesn't have the stamina to go the distance because of his asthmatic condition.
Well, he in bad trouble if that's the case.
Briggs manages to land a left over the top. Second round has been a pretty good one, though, both in terms of tactics and punches landed for George Foreman. Lennox, quick thumbnail prediction. Who's going to win the fight?
Well, the best man.
Wow, beautiful. Why don't you go back and run for Prime Minister, Lennox? Thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Lennox Lewis looking forward to a possible fight with Evander Holyfield. Join us for the most recent installment of Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Featured in this edition, a profile of Detroit Pistons superstar Grant Hill, a talk with NFL quarterbacks Boomer Esiason, Jim Kelly, and Mark Rippon about their son's life-threatening illnesses, and an investigative look at John Gillette, accused of swindling millions of dollars from top professional athletes. Real Sports, the only show of its kind, and it's only on HBO.
So steady jab is driving me crazy.
The voice of the great Angelo Dundee.
Okay. Get on this case. You don't want no more. You really don't want no more.
Angie asking George to throw that telephone pole jab. And George starts to put a little bit more mustard behind the punches as round 3 gets underway. Shannon Briggs hasn't really released the right hand at all, Roy.
No, and hopefully he's saving it and waiting for those late rounds when he usually gets bored on a fight and has nothing to do. Hopefully he's saving his right hand for those times because he will need it tonight at that point.
This really shows you what a specific art boxing is. I mean, the athletic gap appears to be huge here, but George's technicianship gives him a vast edge in knowledge of what to do.
And let me tell you something else, Jim. The crowd plays a big part right here. Every time George lands a good punch, the crowd goes crazy. This has a psychological effect on the other guy, Briggs, because it makes him think, well, man, am I getting caught with big punches? Am I hurt or what? You know, it makes him think twice about himself. Stuff like that.
Well, if he doesn't know if he's getting hit with punches, he's got a real problem.
Now, I didn't say he didn't know if he's getting hit. I said it makes him wonder again, am I hurt? Am I looking foolish? What's going on here, you know? Makes him second guess himself.
It's a really good point, Roy. And it seems now...
He's slacked and punching. You see that?
Yeah, Briggs has abandoned the style that he used in the first round.
Because he's tired. You get tired of running from a guy. It takes a lot out of you to run from a
Briggs
guy.
lands a left hook, but he's really in a defensive mode here. You saw him there with his back against the ropes, and we already told you what his trainer thinks of that. Now here he's backing into a corner by himself.
Hey, you know what I'm thinking here? You can run, but you can't hide. Same thing I was going to take for Griffin before the last fight.
It's not even a small ring. There's plenty of space in there.
It makes no difference. You can run, but you can't hide. Now, if he goes ahead and fights, then he can avoid George a little easier. But he can't avoid him by not fighting. He has to fight.
Stop punching, Shannon. Stop hitting him. No, stop hitting him in the back of his head.
Last 30 seconds of round 3. So far, everything going George Foreman's way, or so it seems, against Shannon Briggs.
And I think the big punch to George is going to be the left uppercut.
Good job.
Why is that, Roy?
Because once he gets inside, Shannon's got his hands up, his right hand up, looking for the left hook a lot. And George will sooner or later get inside, and Shannon's going to stay straight up, and George's going to sneak that left uppercut right under the right hand, and that'll be a dangerous punch.
Stop.
And I think that's George's best weapon because people don't see it coming.
Shannon looks awfully tired as round 3 comes to a close.
It's nothing, Shannon. You listen to God, it's nothing. Listen to your trainer and do what the hell he tells you. Come on.
Go with me. Why you don't use that right hand? Why you don't use that right hand? Tell me. No, you don't use it. Come here, baby. You want to lead the fight? Use a jab. Right hand. Come move.
You must punch Shannon. He's right. Come on. Take a breath. Come on. Take a breath. You're here for this fight.
Go with me.
Come on.
Come, baby.
Come on.
Okay, son, move over, slide on the guy. You know what to do. Slide. But everything is with your jab. No wide shots. No wide shot. Don't reach for him. He's ready to go.
Here's George patiently stalking Briggs. A left that was short, a right that wasn't.
And I tell you what, Larry, Briggs' corner is feeling this sense of urgency that we're talking about here.
Yeah, you heard veteran cutman Al Gavin playing an extremely vocal role as he tried to shame Briggs into fighting, saying, come on, you're supposed to know what you're here for. Briggs threw an average of about 33 punches around in the first 3 rounds, and that won't get it done. He's got to throw at least 50 punches around to have a chance.
In the back of his head. Okay, stop hitting him. Yeah, but stop hitting him in the back of his head. Okay. All right, good job.
And you heard the trainer screaming for the right hand. Briggs not releasing the right hand up to this point in the bout. Shannon seemed to know that he needed to throw more punches as he came out for this round, but Foreman's been landing the jab at about a 70% clip.
One reason he's not throwing that right hand is because he can't see a target. George has that big jab up in front of his right hand, so he doesn't see anything to throw it at.
Stop punch.
Easy pickings.
Good job.
George Foreman landing the jab with metronome regularity against Shannon Briggs.
Good guy. Yeah, punch out. All right, stop punching.
One of my favorite expert observations when George sits next to me, Roy. This sport is easy if you have a jab.
Very easy if you have a jab. Oh, Shannon's starting to feel real bad now. And the crowd is not having a minute. Oh, good shot. There's that semi-uppercut I'm talking about right there, Larry.
There's a hard right hand by Briggs as he suddenly comes out of his doldrums.
Yeah, but this is sort of like the last thing, the last straw. If that doesn't work, then what's he going to do?
Well, Briggs said that the Brownsville would come out of him sooner or later, meaning that he would fight like a Tyson, come out and roar despite his plans, but we haven't seen that part of him yet. Or a Bo.
Well, for his sake, hopefully we'll see it tonight.
Briggs landing a left hook.
Stop punch, stop punch, stop punch. Good job.
He's landed more effective punches in this round than had been the case in the two preceding ones, but he's also taken some punishment.
In the back of his head, man. And the clips.
And referee Eddie Cotton continually warning Briggs for hitting Foreman in the back of the head. Now we're getting close to a penalty deduction on that subject.
Briggs is telegraphing his punches so much that George can see him coming from a mile away.
All right, stop punch, stop punch. Good job, good job, good job, fellas. I like that.
Briggs should stick to his jab and stay away from George. That's the safest weapon he can use.
There, Briggs beat George to the punch with the jab, but it's happened all too rarely. Foreman doesn't look very pretty as he releases these combinations. Let the punches just keep coming.
Why isn't he throwing the right hand, do you think, Roy?
Because he doesn't see a right hand target. Every time he looks, he sees George's big left hand there, so he doesn't see a straight shot to throw it at.
So why not go to the body?
Because you don't fight a smart fight.
Nobody ever goes to the body against George. I don't get it.
Short shots, jab like you do. Hit this guy with a hell of a left hook. Don't let him bump you in the shoulder, okay?
Body shot. Take it from me. Take it from me. Just get a little closer way to ram the hook right in his body. You got it weak.
Nice short shot. In close, believe me, you can nail it with a left hook. Be close. Don't hook from the outside. Everything's a jab. Jab.
Hey, a move.
All right, everybody.
Go. Wait, look at me.
Angelo Dundee asking Foreman to get in close and nail his man with the left hook.
To answer your question, Jim, a lot of guys, when they see George tote them Jeeps around, they feel like body punches won't hurt this guy, so why throw it?
Well, they're probably right, too, but logic tells you if plan A isn't working, you got to try plan B.
Go to corner. You got a glove, George.
Eddie Cotton with a piece of loose tape on Foreman's glove. Briggs in a neutral corner.
Yeah, clip this off and then put some tape on here.
Okay.
Okay?
Little cameo for Dundee here.
Okay.
And for once, Angelo didn't do this on purpose.
For once.
Hard right hand by Briggs. Every time Briggs seizes momentum for 5 or 10 seconds, George claims it back with the jab.
You know, this is so funny to me. You see a 48-year-old guy here faking out a guy, making him flinch, doing the things that the young fighters should be doing to him, you know?
Stop punch. Good job. Thank you.
Well, there's a simple question that you ask about every boxer at some stage of his career. Does he know how to fight? The book is still out on Shannon Briggs, but the verdict was in a long time ago on Foreman. If ever there was somebody who knew how to fight, this is the guy.
Born to fight.
Briggs getting a couple of open shots and taking them. Foreman lands that right across the top.
I think that might have hurt Briggs a little bit.
Well, you know, we've talked for years about George's ability to hurt people with glancing blows. You wondered if it was gone since he's gone 3 years without a knockout, but he may be in line for one tonight.
I'll tell you what, I seen George stop a guy with a shot to the back.
Did you? I'm not surprised. Harold Letterman, how'd you score the first 4 rounds?
Jim, 3 rounds to 1, 39-37, big George Foreman. He just keeps walking him down, and wrapping him with that tremendous left jab. And the key to the fight is Shannon Briggs is just standing straight up like a totem pole. You can't miss him. He's got to bob and weave and move that head.
You're asking him to do things, Harold, that he doesn't do. If he did those things, he wouldn't be Shannon Briggs.
If he did those things, George might not have chosen him from that opponent's list. That's another area where George excels. Matchmaking.
That's a good body shot, Jim.
Left hook to the body. I think that's something that Briggs ought to do every time it enters his mind.
Okay.
How are you ever going to know if George can handle body punches if you don't at least go there and try it?
You got a point there.
All right, stop point. Good job, Shannon. Put some tape on the gloves. Put some tape on his gloves. Put some tape on his gloves. Hey. Angel, put some tape on his gloves. Bang.
Yeah. Whoa. What are we eating?
Tape on the glove.
61%.
Where? Give me a channel, Luis. Channel, you need a water.
Take a little water. You gotta use that right hand.
Beautiful. Fine.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Just pushing and then using the right hand.
Back it up, George, over here. Seconds out. I got him.
The other guy wants to know why.
Let's go.
Round 6 of the scheduled 12. George Foreman against Shannon Briggs.
If Shannon can do that right there, jab, hook, and stay on the outside, step around George, don't let George have what he wants, that's his best chance of winning this fight.
Yeah, that was out of the Morrison book on how to beat Foreman. Jab, hook, move out of the way.
Those right there are the things he needs to do, but he has to keep doing it. He can't let George sit there and do nothing. He has to keep punching George like that, right there.
And he's got to try to give George angles instead of being in front of him as he has been throughout so much of the bout. But Briggs off to a decent tactical start in this round.
But now he stops right there, and that's what you don't want to do.
Watch his shoulders. Watch out.
You know, these punches look so slow from George. You're thinking, how do they land? Obviously, it's deceptive.
Very deceptive.
Right hand by Briggs.
Very good right hand by Briggs.
That's a pretty good idea, too. You know, change up. Throw straight right hands and lead with them.
But he has to do it more often.
Come on, hands free. Let's punch up. Hands are free. Come on, pick him up, Shannon. Pick him up.
So Briggs showing small pockets of awareness here and there. And Foreman continues to try to wear him down. Briggs is a big, strong man at 6'4", 227, but when George leans on him like that, it's got to take something out of him over the long haul.
Yeah, it does. But he's a younger fighter, and if he wants to win this fight, he has to stand up under that.
Stop punch.
Left hand to the chest. Crowd responded. Briggs shook his head as if to say, hey, wait a minute. That wasn't all that big a deal. Why are you people cheering? Underlining the point you made earlier about how the crowd gets in his head.
Right, the crowd is getting in anybody's head like that. It's not just him.
There's a quick left hook inside that landed flush for Shannon Briggs, and Foreman just keeps on coming.
That wasn't nothing.
All in all, to this point, Briggs has not been able to hit Foreman the way Savarese did, the way Axel Schultz did, the way Michael Moore did for 9 rounds. Maybe George is improving. Halfway through. Let's turn to another sporting subject entirely. Over the last 100 years, maybe no other sport has undergone as massive a transition as ladies figure skating. Join us in January as HBO Sports presents Reflections on Ice, a diary of ladies figure skating as we look back at the evolution, the sacrifices, the successes, the tragedies of ladies figure skating through revealing interviews and never before seen footage. It premieres January 27 right here on HBO Sports. Hello, Dorothy.
Listen, over there somewhere, listen.
Oh, yeah, don't get excited.
The other guy's loose. The other guy's loose.
This isn't ladies figure skating tonight.
No.
I gave
Although
Briggs the last round.
Did you?
I thought that was his best round since the first. I was about to start thinking he is submitting, giving in, but he found something in that last round. Let's see if he can exploit it.
If he continues to do that right here, every round he starts out
this looks
perfect.
good.
Every round he starts out just right. If he just can keep that up for 3 minutes and continue that throughout the fight, he'll have no problem.
Well, Briggs did manage to get off 48 punches in round 6, his highest punch output of the fight so far. And perhaps not coincidentally, Harold Letterman gave him the round also. So let's see if Briggs can build on what he did in round 6 and mount a rally against the so far more effective George Foreman.
I think George is going into the toe-to-cheek mode now.
Foreman going mostly with the jab. Briggs throwing the greater variety of punches. Big power punch edge for Briggs. In round 6, he landed 17 of them to only 4 for George.
Okay, all right. Let's go.
He's doing a smart thing here, Briggs, by throwing these snapping punches while George's punches are winging, because you have to land the quicker punches. If you're quicker than a guy, use your hand speed on him.
Hey, watch them hands. Let him go. Let him go. Hands free.
Briggs keeping Foreman occupied inside, going to the body so that Foreman doesn't have a chance to throw that uppercut, which might have done so much damage.
All right, stop punching. Good job.
Foreman hasn't landed a good punch on Briggs for some time now, though.
Which is mostly due to the fact that Briggs is just handling himself better. I don't think George is tiring or changing.
No, I think Briggs is doing the right thing. He's not fighting George's pace. He's fighting his own pace. He's throwing quick, sharp punches, and he's keeping George on the move. That's the way to beat George for a young guy here.
Maybe it took Briggs 5 rounds to settle down and get his head straight and remember what it was that he planned to do.
It's been a while since he's been in against an opponent like this, though, you know?
Watch them hands free.
He's never been in against an opponent like this.
Well, somebody with a name on HBO, you know, it's different when you step up with this big TV scene. It's a whole lot of difference, you know? You have a reputation to uphold when you fight here.
In all honesty, when we had him on against Darrell Wilson last year on HBO, that was a showcase for Briggs. We ran a profile of him, which was a star profile. We were as shocked as anybody when he folded up like an accordion after Wilson hit him in the mouth.
But there's a lot of pressure there sometimes, and people don't realize the pressure that a person is under when you profile them and you do all these type things and it's the first time.
Okay, stop punching. Good job, fellas.
Foreman going back to hitting Briggs flush in the mouth with the jab. Shannon Briggs with a combination to the body, and the right uppercut to the chest was a real good idea.
And now he's out punching George, he's out working George, and I think he's fighting a lot smarter fight now.
You can do it all night in close. Deep breath. Throw a feint once in a while. It's pretty. You straighten them out of position. Nice. Get the jab.
Good round. Good round.
That's great. Come in. Go down. Go. Put it down. Listen, baby. You win the fight. The fight is too close. He's the champion. He's the 8th round. 4 more rounds, you are the champion. What happened to you? Why do you won? Or you want I hit it to you? No. Come on, baby.
Right here, son. It's all the way.
Bro, go with me.
Just keep breathing. Just keep
Don't let him get hit. Keep him backing up with the jab. Train him, see if he'll go for a sucker shot.
George Foreman is a compelling figure in boxing. This is not a compelling fight.
Show ain't. But at least it's changing. In round 6 or 7, Briggs found a formula for limiting Foreman's opportunities, as is evidenced by the fact that CompuBox numbers in round 7 showed Foreman attempting only 21 punches. Here's a hard right hand across the top by Foreman. Briggs shakes his head, but that punch landed. Harold Letterman, how you got it through 7?
Jim, I got it 5 rounds to 2, 68-65 George Foreman. I think he hurt him in the 7th round with a couple of punches he landed. Then he won that also. He certainly lost the 6th round. I'm talking about Foreman. But he just keeps walking him down and wrapping him with the harder shots. I think he's winning the fight.
He's winning the 8th round. That much I can tell you.
I have it 4 rounds, 2 and 1 even. I always manage to find an even round.
I was just about to say that, Larry. You know, if they go 1 round, I think you got that 1 round even from the get-go, you know?
Even cameo on Larry's card.
I'm glad I got it out of the way.
Foreman over the top with the right hand. Foreman with a hard left hook. George having his biggest round since early in the bout.
Yeah, and because Briggs is not being offensive now. Briggs is all defenses, and he's letting George be offensive. The best defense is offense.
His feet have stopped moving, his hands have stopped moving, and he's letting George hit him. Now Briggs lands a left hook across the top. Great point. The best defense, particularly against a fighter like Foreman, is a good offense.
The best defense, period, in my case, I think, is a good offense.
Hard right hand.
At least that's what my dad taught me.
And he taught you well.
That was the hardest punch of the fight for George. He must sense that Briggs is weakening or that he just doesn't have any more movement.
Why is Briggs standing straight up here taking these punches is what I would like to know.
Maybe Briggs expended so much energy in rounds 5 and 6.
Yeah, but he can slip the punches. He's in there. Oh, good shot by Briggs. Now, that was smart.
Left hook to the body down low. Very
smart
good
shot.
Hard right hand across the top for Foreman. Round 8, the biggest crowd pleaser of the bout.
You can't let Foreman rally like this because on this rally, he's 48 years old. He may get a 10-8 round here for this big rally. And then you got to knock him out to win the fight now.
That left hook to the body if Briggs will keep throwing it. That's a very good idea.
Listen, you don't want to war, you lose the fight, all right? Go out. Hey, man, with you. What happened? You won too many for nothing. Maya, cubo. Pinga esto. What's that with you, baby? Go with me. Don't go punch.
9th round. Turn it on him.
Take a look at that flurry of punches from George. A combination, a left with a right behind it. A half hook behind that. Old George is like an old lion who can still mangle you if he catches you.
Nice and steady.
And Foreman, who threw 21 punches in round 7, threw 67 punches in round 8 and landed 64% of them. So it was a huge round for Foreman, fueled by the jab. He was 25 for 36 in that category.
Shannon needs to tighten up here and win the rest of these rounds if he wants to even be in contention for this fight.
4 rounds to go.
Did they say Shannon Briggs the one that had asthma, or was it the cornerman? The cornerman seemed like he was struggling a little bit just now. Or maybe he was just overexcited.
Maybe the asthma is contagious. Although Teddy Atlas, of course, never caught it.
I don't think that Teddy Atlas questioned that he had asthma. I think his concern was he never raised it before. Why would you raise it after you lose your first fight? Sounds too much like an alibi.
Stop punches. Step back. Good job.
Well, Atlas also claims that when he spent 4 hours with Briggs at a hospital after that fight, waiting for Shannon to get his eye stitched up, that Briggs never said a word to him about asthma during that period of time. That's Atlas's claim, and Briggs says, I've never been so hurt in my life by somebody who would defame me after having been so close to me for so long. He also says that Atlas was trying to make him a puncher and that he believes deep at heart he's always been a boxer.
Well, these are things that you have to talk out amongst one another while you're working together. You don't wait till it's all over to start working things out. That's how things get so confused. That's how problems come about. When you don't have communication, you mess up an organization.
Well, that's yet another Briggs observation, that working with Teddy Atlas means you listen while Teddy talks.
Well, then Teddy needs somebody that can't talk. But I know a few guys like that, man.
Foreman crunching Briggs inside with a left hook. They trade body shots in close. And Briggs punctuates the exchange with a right cross. So Foreman chases him across the ring and lands his own right cross.
And I'm going to tell you something. Briggs can't keep getting hit with his right hand or it'll chop you down. George is chopping on him just like he chops on those trees. If he keeps on knocking little ditches out, he's going to eventually chop you down. Good body shot by George. George throw the hook body, hook head. Oh, Shannon is in George's territory right now, I have to say.
Well, give him the gold star for bravery then.
Yeah, because he's fighting.
Dominant tactic in the bout so far. George Foreman's legendary jab. It's been the bulwark on which his entire career has been built. Larry Merchant, take us through the replays of Foreman's jabs.
Well, George, this was almost a non-existent punch for George in his first career. It's the punch that has sustained his second career. This is a medley of jabs. And he's not just touching Briggs.
Yeah, give me. Charlie, fight on.
Come on, try the wrong way.
Come on.
Good.
Go. Hey, don't let it slip.
Come on. That's good.
That's it.
George himself has a little bit of swelling under his eyes. He has been hit with some jabs himself.
Jabs through round 9. Foreman landing 120 of 177. Briggs 44 of 104.
Briggs once again starting out the correct way.
10 rounds is as far as Shannon Briggs has ever gone in his career. He got a 10th round TKO over Valdez in his last bout. Briggs lands a right hand across the top. He had a big rally in round 9 of the Valdez fight. Let's see if he's got something saved for rounds 10, 11, and 12 here.
Now that goes into the books or into our computers as a jab. That didn't look like any jab I've seen before.
Looked more like a straight left hand by a southpaw to me.
Larry, among all the heavyweights you've ever covered, whose jab did you like the best?
Larry Holmes had a great jab. Ali.
Sonny Liston?
Liston had a hammer, a really big jab. I don't think anybody depended on the jab as much as Larry Holmes did.
Larry's here tonight in the crowd.
Stop punching.
Veritable who's who of boxing tonight. You've heard from Lennox Lewis. Brunell Whitaker sitting in the row right behind us. Young heavyweight Michael Grant
Pick him up. That's close.
here to observe his compatriot Briggs. David Tua fought on the undercard.
Uh-oh, that body shot might have hurt Briggs.
Pick him up. Come on,
Stopped
Shannon.
Briggs in his tracks for the moment, but Shannon resumed throwing punches. If you joined us late,
Come on, you
David
guys, let's get him
Tua,
up, let's get him up.
in his first
Watch
bout
your
since
heads.
his loss to Ike Beabuchi, beat Jeff Lally in a second-round knockout. Totally one-sided affair that Tua dominated with body punching. He knocked Lally down 5 times.
And the good thing about the young fighters is once you think you got one that's just about to make it, just about to bust onto the scene, you find something tough come out from around the corner and it upsets them, you know. That's why I like to see the young guys fight so much.
Let's watch him head, Spells. That's right. Keep the punches up.
That was a good body shot by Shannon.
Hard right hand to the body, sets up a combination up top. Foreman feels the need to come back with a certain fury, but Shannon Briggs with some very effective stuff in round 10.
Highly effective.
Come on. One more round.
Good round.
Come on. Go. Go with me. Go. Put a bull. Put a bull. Go. Take a while. Baby, 11 rounds. Watch. 11 rounds. You doing 2 more. Same with this. You win. You are the champion. You understand? Go, baby. Baby, you say jab. You say jab.
You can try to swing with it. Like when you get in close, try that instead of walk at him. Like when you're crossing. I don't understand.
Okay, come on. That right hand.
Body shot. That one stopped Briggs, hurt him. Briggs came right back, took that idea, and then popped George on top of his head.
If Shannon is a gambler, he just rolled himself a hard 10. Now he has 2 more to go, and he'll be all right.
Good job.
Shannon Briggs dominating round 10, landing 28 out of 44 punches, 64%. 20 of those lands, power shots. Let's see if he can step up the pace yet again in round 11.
All right.
Whatever happens in this fight, what you look for in a young fighter is heart, courage, championship stuff. I don't see it in Briggs even if he wins this fight.
Well, I see a little bit of it because he's taking some good punches tonight. He's showing some good angles. He's throwing some pretty good punches.
Harold, how'd you have it through 10?
Jim, 97-93, 7 rounds to 3, George Foreman. I tell you, Jim, I always score somehow or another for the effective aggressor. He's just carrying the fight to Shannon Briggs. I mean, Shannon's landing some awful good shots in this fight, but George keeps walking him down. He is the effective aggressor. He is landing the hardest shots. I think he's winning the fight overall. Shannon could make it close in the last 2 rounds, but I think George has got enough rounds in the bank to win the fight.
I have it 6-3 and 1 even.
Watch your head. Watch your head.
What's your instinct, Roy? Either man got a chance to score a knockout in these last 4 minutes and 40 seconds?
Of course, both men still have a chance to score knockouts. Briggs is a big puncher. George, as you know, is one of the biggest punchers of all time. So either guy could score a knockout, but at this pace, I don't think we'll see one.
5 of Foreman's last 7 fights have gone the distance.
Okay, stop punching.
Knockout over Pierre Kutzer in the 8th. Knockout over Michael Moore in the 10th.
Stop punching in the back of his head, man.
Those 7 fights have averaged nearly 11 rounds apiece.
Let's go.
If this goes the distance, it'll be yet another 12-round effort by Foreman as he approaches 49 years old.
I want to clean.
Another thing that some of these younger guys don't understand is that if you're fighting a guy over 40 years old, the judges expect you to go out there and dominate this guy. They're not going to give you a close fight against this guy because you're the one who's supposed to go out there to show yourself. You're supposed to be the showcase.
Briggs badly off balance as he landed the right-hand shot.
Watch them heads.
Incidentally, 11 years ago tonight, Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, knocking out Trevor Berbick in the 2nd round. Of course, if Foreman, by some stretch of the imagination, can get another shot at the heavyweight title, he will again be trying to become the oldest man ever to win it, as he was the night he knocked out Moore. Hard shots by Briggs.
He's trying to knock him out. He's trying his best to knock him out.
I think he's shown more courage and stomach in the last 3 rounds than in his whole career up to that point.
My points, too. I think he has.
Last round. Come here. Very nice. Got only the last round. That's all there is, son. Very nice. Good. In close.
You have a thing to me? All right. Now it's the 12th round. Watch it, the last round. Watch it. The last round. The last round. It's a jab. Jab right here and move.
Last round.
Go.
Yeah. You got to let your hands free. You got to use a jab.
Shot come. Shot come. Take it. Hand up, jab, jab, get close.
Come on. Last round.
Everything. Come on.
No more. Very nice. Steady, steady. Don't get sloppy, okay? Let's see a lot of jabs.
Round 12 of George Foreman's 81st professional bout. Shannon Briggs, probably behind on the scorecards, probably needs a knockout.
I think so.
Foreman trying for the knockout with that hard right hand over the top, but it was short. Foreman landing to the body, comes back with a left hook. Jab, jab. Foreman the busier fighter in the first 40 seconds of the last round.
All right, let's watch some heads in there.
Good 1-2 combination by George. A left hook followed by a right hook.
Right now it appears that Briggs is just trying to last the distance that he has submitted to George's enormous will.
Fourth root-going performance in a row for Foreman. If we hear the bell for round 12, hasn't had a knockout since the Moore fight. Maybe he doesn't need knockouts to keep winning at this stage of his career.
All right, stop punch, stop punch, stop punch. Come on out. Come on out.
As long as he can choose his opponents this carefully. Blood around the edges of Shannon Briggs' nose. Visible evidence of Foreman's 12th round attack. All Foreman now as Briggs backs up. Crowd rises to its feet. Another giant ovation for the boxing giant.
I tell you, Shannon Briggs is really showing some heart here tonight, though. He's fighting. He's not running. He's not being afraid. He's trying. He's letting it all hang out. But George may be the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Briggs landing a left hook inside. Foreman coming back with a left-right of his own. 30 seconds to go.
Okay, stop punching. Good job.
Three judges at ringside, probably holding the fate of Foreman's career in their hands. Hard to imagine that he could rebound in a business sense from a loss at this point, but through our eyes, it appears he's not in danger of that.
His courage, Briggs, came too late.
And you saw what were no doubt words of encouragement and support from George Foreman to the man whom Foreman no doubt believes he has just defeated. Harold Letterman, how'd you finish up with the scorecard?
Well, Jim, once again, I'm not one for giving a fight to a guy that runs away. And certainly Shannon Briggs ran for 12 rounds from George Foreman. Judge took it to him. I think he deserves this fight. 116, 112, 8 rounds to 4, George Foreman. I just loved him on effective aggressiveness. I thought he landed the harder shots. Shannon Briggs did see his blood in the 12th round and certainly didn't fold up. He punched back. But even still, George took it to him. George landed the harder shots. George did more damage. Foreman by a decision, 8-4.
Amazing grace. under pressure in the late rounds from Foreman. Came out and seized the 12th round to punctuate his statement to the judges.
And you wonder, how can a 48-year-old man continue to come out and outwork these young guys? It's just so unbelievable.
Well, what amazes you more? What he did here tonight, or that video of him pulling the Jeep up a hill strapped to his back?
Of course, you know that Jeep is the most amazing thing I ever seen.
And final CompuBox punch stat numbers for this bout. Foreman landing 284 out of 488. Briggs throws 6 more punches but lands 61 fewer. Foreman with that extraordinary 58% connect percentage, made even more extraordinary by the fact that to the layman's eyes, every punch appears to be thrown in slow motion. Jabs. Foreman landing 157 out of 230, 68%. It's almost as if he walks up and says, I'm going to hit you with the jab, and you're not going to be able to stop it. Briggs, 57 out of 135, respectable, but probably not enough. Let's go to Michael Buffer.
From the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, we go to the Budweiser scorecards. Steve Weisfeld scores the bout 114 to 114. He has it even.